All right, welcome back. And we want to continue on. I'm going to make a kind of a part B here for our secret authentication login screen here. At the moment, we've got, let me get rid of those ones here. At the moment, we've just had the two um, users and usernames and passwords that we've entered in here, and that had to be done by me as the programmer because that's the only person who has access to it, and I have to do that from withincode.org. But obviously, you want to be able to create an app where users can enroll themselves or register and be able to become members of your super secret club. Um, on the, here we go, back to here. So what I'd like to do is set up a way so that I don't have to manually enter in data into the database. I want to be able to do that in the app to register a new user so that people could create accounts and maybe create their own stuff that they're going to save, or at least be able to create an account so that they can be members of your super secret club. And so let's give that a little bit of a go. So I'm going to start off by, I'm going to use the existing app here, and just to make things a little more clear, because this gets a little confusing, I'm going to switch to my text mode here. And here's a nice little hint, especially as you're designing as well, if you're chunking up parts, you can add some comments. As much as I did in the little example here I've posted onto Moodle. You can do a single line comment with just a // This basically will be ignored by the computer. And in fact, if you switch back to the blocks mode here, you'll see they come up as gray. And this is kind of handy to leave notes for yourselves. That's actually under the functions one here. You can drag a comment if you want. Another handy feature, and you don't have a block for this, but in the code, if you want to get rid of multiple lines or hide multiple lines, you can use /*, and that will comment out everything until it gets to a //. And if I go back to show the blocks, what's going to happen is that's all going to be grayed out. So it's kind of nice that I can just ignore all of that code from the other one, so I'm not confused and it's not getting too ugly. Just some handy features for debugging purposes and for kind of building more complex programs. So in this case here on my login screen, I'm going to add something to it. I'm going to add a register register new user, or just a register button here. And I'm going to have that, let's call this a new register button. There we go. And basically, I want that to take me to another screen where a user can sign up for my portal or my app here. And to save us some time, I've already made that register screen here. Just a welcome to the secret club, pick a username, pick a password, and a submit button. This is got a text input, new user, new UN, and new password here. Just another screen here that we can create. So I'll add that feature that when I click the login screen, when I click the register button, that is going to take me, register user, that is going to take me to my new register screen. Set screen, there we go, to the register screen. All right, and on my register screen, I'm going to have a couple of usernames and just a submit button. And basically what I want to do is when they're able to sign themselves up, and when I hit that submit button, it's going to take that username and that password and write it as a new record in my database so that people can sign up themselves. So let's have a little look at how to make that happen. I'm going to stick on here. Now, obviously, when I run it, I'm going to have to click on my register and get in here. But let's see, it should be not too complicated. Basically, I need to read that, and then go write it in the database. So we've done this already. The first thing I'll do is I'm going to create, remember when I'm communicating back and forth between the app and the database, I'm usually going to use a object. Well, let's make this when I click the submit button. Let's make sure that this is called register user. Oh, let's fix that, my mistake on the login screen. Oh, that is register button, perfect. Never mind. So when I go to my register screen, when I click the register user button, so this was actually a mistake here. This was register button. So when I click the submit button, which is also called register user, then I'm going to grab this and go write it into the database. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a object, JavaScript object, and I will just call this something like new user. The key and the important one here at the beginning is going to be my username. So I'm going to say this is username, which is the same as the key in my database. The username is going to be whatever they typed in here, whatever they typed into the new UN field. So I will get the text from there. From new UN. And this is, you can start to see why it's really important to use nice descriptive names for all of your things. I got a little sloppy here with these basic labels. Those are just the things up top here. But if you don't name everything, you're going to get 100 different labels and you're not going to know which one is which. So pick good names here that are descriptive. So new UN is a great one here. That's my new username. And I'm going to write that to a JavaScript object. And then I'm also, however, going to want to later on add this password to match along with that. And there's a couple ways we can do that. If you're in the text mode, you could use a comma to separate all of those different things. But for reasons which will become obvious a little bit later, I'm going to use another feature here, which is this is going to create the object, and then I can add another piece of information to that same object. And there is a add pair feature right down here, and you'll see why I don't want to use the comma to put multiple things. But as I said, later on, if you had a reason for it, you could say username. You should be able to put a comma in here, right about there. There, and then put another pair of these things, username colon something or other. But as I said, I want to do this via the code, and you'll see why in a few minutes as to why that's kind of handy. So I'm just going to add the pair. The next one I have to do is I pick which object I'm going to add it to. The object has to already have been created. So I'm going to say, well, the new user is the object I've done, and the pair I'm going to pair that I'm going to add to it is the password here, and that is called password. Password here, and the value of the password is exactly the same idea. I'm going to grab the text from that field, so I will get text, and I think I called that new password if I was smart. Perfect. So when I click that, this is going to pop up just to test to see if that works. Let's just console log and make sure we have a console log the new user. So run my app. I'm going to click register now, and let's say the new user is Bob, and Bob's password is this. And you can see, perfect, I've got this JavaScript object now. It has multiple things, username Bob, comma, password, this. Super handy, and so I know that at least that part works. All right, I can get rid of that console now here. So once I've now grabbed the username and password, I want to add that to my database. So if I go into my database, you can look down here, and we had already the read records, but you'll notice right above that is to be able to create a new record. So very handy here. Let's drag that down and let's see how it works. Create record, my table. Well, my table is called users. We did that before. You're going to see here now we've just got this JavaScript object. And at the moment, they've got a little example name is Alice. Well, I don't want Alice in my database. I want whatever this object was to be added to the database. So I can drag Alice out of there, and quite handy here. We could just hopefully just add this new new user. So let's check it out. Let's see if that works. And there's at the moment nothing else. There's no real feedback, which maybe I would like a little bit of feedback because I might make a mistake or something like that. Once this is done, I could put a little note to myself here just to get a little bit of a programming feedback. I can say user created just to make sure it works. So let's reset that, run it, and I can pick a username. Let's go Larry, and Larry's password is this. I click submit. Whoop, pops up here, user created, and I should be able to go look at my data and see, yep, there it is. There's a new Larry one. Now, you probably want to move away from the screen after, but I can actually just test this out here. We'll go Sue. Here's Sue's password. And you can see immediately we start to add up things here. You'll notice the IDs keep going up, and it's kind of weird. You've got this 1, 2, and then 33, 34. And the reason for that is that the table doesn't number these in order. It numbers them how many records have been created or deleted, which is a handy thing, which is why you're going to get some of these weird IDs going on. So in the past, I've created or deleted a bunch. In fact, if I delete these two here, and then I go pick up Frank, and I create Frank, you'll see Frank is now 35. I can delete Frank, and if I recreate Frank, then you'll see Frank is now 36. So it keeps track of it. That's okay. And the reason for that is these must be unique. So it just keeps a running total of how many things have been created. You can also later on in more advanced databases create your own primary key and have a random number assigned or something like that. But we have now been able to do that. Now let me make another one here that I actually know. We can say, oh, I guess I can't get back to my main screen here, but I should be able to now that Frank is in here. Let's make a new one here, Tony, and Tony is password is password because Tony does not know how to name passwords here. So I'm going to create that there. And if I quit the program here and now I run it again, I should be able to log in with Tony and password here. And nothing happens because I commented all of my code out. So that's not running. All right, let's quickly fix that. Let's give us the code back that actually ran the screen, the main app there, and we'll reset that, run it, and we'll say Tony is going to punch in Tony's password, and we're going to submit. And yes, Tony is now an authenticated user and is allowed to do that. So that is fabulous. There is, however, a little bit of a problem that you may find when you run this program is that there's some hackability here. For instance, if I am a new user and then I say, well, you know what, my name is Tony, and I'm going to say better than Tony's password, and I submit. Oh, sorry, I'm going to register a new user. My username is Tony, and then I am better than Tony. Submit. I have a bit of a problem now. Now I have two Tonys with two different passwords in my account. And technically, the username really should be my primary key. This should be something that I can only have one Tony, and anybody else has to be Tony123 or Tony87 or Tony whatever their birth date is. You'll see here, because this should be a unique thing, even though they are all unique because they have an ID here as the primary key. That's not going to work for my app, because now when I log in, do I log in as Tony with password or Tony with better than Tony? And later on, if Tony had special private data associated with him, we would run into a problem, because who knows which Tony is going to be able to get that thing. So we should, in our next video, you know what, our video is pretty quick here. Let's fix that problem right now. So in our code, we need to make sure that we can't just blindly create new users. We want to make sure that that user is unique before we create it, that there already doesn't exist a user with that username. And it's not too complicated, but if we think about it here, let's go through the process. I type in a username and I type in a password and I hit submit. I want to click that. I'm going to grab the username that they put in, and then I need to check the database to make sure that username isn't already being used. So I am going to do this. I'm going to read the records like we've done in the past, and I'm going to do that right after I create that JavaScript object. And this is the reason why it's handy to have those two things separate, that password not being added to the JavaScript object right here, because I don't care about the password yet. I want to make sure Tony or whatever the username they've typed in is not being used. I can get rid of all of that for loop in the middle here, because all I need to do is read the records. The first thing I'm going to do is go into the user's database, and I want to see if Tony or whatever new user is already in there. So I'll get rid of that, and I'm going to search the database for new user. And we've done this in the past here, where we've searched the user here. And notice we even did it here. If that record's length is greater than 0, that means we had a user with that name in here. So I can use the flip side of that, the opposite, and I want to go, well, you know what? If I return a user, or if I don't, then I can create one. So I'm going to use that if statement to my advantage here, just like I did before. And this one, I want to say, at some point in time, there's going to be a record, or maybe there's not going to be a record. So I can say if records dot length, like I did previously, in this case is greater than 0, which means there is a Tony already in the database, or whatever they've typed in here. Then I am going to just log an error message here, just as my console here. I can say, sorry, that username is taken. And the flip side, though, is now if it's not, if we have 0 or less than 0, well, not less than 0, if we don't have any of these records, well, then that username is free for the taking, and we can create it. And we've already got that down here. We've got the ability, we can now add the password to that JavaScript object. And the reason we didn't want to do that previously is because we would have then been searching for a user with username Tony and password better than Tony. So somebody could come in and punch in a different password, and that would register as not coming up, so that they would now create Tony with a different password. In this case, now we can't have any Tonys, only we can't have any Tonys there, and that will make a hit there. So that's why that comma, you didn't want to use that comma way. We want to add the password after the fact. Now that we've confirmed that there are no other Tonys in the thing, we can add the pair, and then we can drag that create record up here, just like we did before. So if we reset this and I go run it and hit register, we should, let's say there's already a Tony here, so I'm going to do Tony and blah, 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 and I hit submit. I get, a user created. Did I have a Tony there previously? Oh, it was Frank, sorry. You can try either Tony or Frank, so let's run that again and register a new user. This time we're going to do this in the code side so I can see that error message. Let's put a Frank here with a new password. And sorry, that username is taken. Beautiful. And if I go into the data and I keep clicking that, then we do not get 100 new Tonys or 100 new Franks. any username that is already done is not going to work. If you do a layered, that's not going to work. But if we put layered 2, then that should now come up as a new user. And now you've got a little bit of error handling and debugging and making sure that you do not get 100 different usernames that are exactly the same.